Well, let's go. I have a printout of February's meeting notes, if anyone would like to see a hard copy. Because we do have a Kingston, I'll approve those tonight if we can. Let's see here. All right. I don't know if we need to do a round of introductions. I think most of us know each other. We just have Kristen on Zoom right now.
I like Kristen's photo.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good one. Right, so if we, get into get the meeting going, I could hear an approval of the February meeting minutes as written, or we can, come back to that later on the agenda. I need more time. We don't have a whole lot else on the next part of the agenda is sort of our goal for having our circle conversation. There's not, I could do some advances in communications. Would you guys like that first?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah, thank you. Then,
Yeah, announcements. It's not good.
what's that?
We made announcements. Not very good next time. These people show up.
Let's do announcements now? Yeah, great. Let's go do announcements. So it's all the way at the end. I put a bunch of stuff on there today. Some things coming up. So there's a Celebrate Trails Day. I'm looking if anyone is interested in doing an event that day. And there's three pages, two physical pages, digital, yeah, 3 times. I'm not able to host an event that weekend, so if anyone is interested, we could do something to celebrate the Green Line. Walk Hill Valley Land Trust is doing events that day, and then they are at the end of the day sort of hosting anyone who's doing an event that day is welcome to come to Rosendale and sort of do a recap event with them if they'd like in Rosendale. I thought this was pertinent because we're doing all this sort of strategic reflection. I'm going to go to the Tamarack Institute's Remote Collective Action Summit, April 29th to the 1st. So I'm really excited. There's a bunch of right on target about how to do collective impact, how to be a facilitator, lots of great stuff that's right along with Kingston's goals. So just wanted to share that information with y'all. The Kingston's Earth Fair is coming up, and 2 different focus teams of LiveWell will be participating. So Travel Well is hosting a bike valet. That's sort of like a car valet. It's basically bicyclists get priority parking. Their bike gets watched over. It also gives me opportunity to do some outreach with them. So I'll be manning that table. And then Grow Well, Cindy, our chair, will be giving away seedlings and planting advice. And she kind of considers herself a plant doctor. So people are welcome to ask her any questions. Sometimes people come with their house plants and ask her for advice. So it's kind of a fun, interactive thing that we do at the Earth Fair. The Earth Fair is a much bigger event. There's a whole lot going on if you're all interested. There's recycling for electronics. There's the Clearwater organization is managing all of the music performances. There's lots of great food. It's really a wonderful event. I think this will be the 3rd year down at the TR Gallery Park. So please check that out. On May 17th, the YMCA is holding a health and wellness jam. It sort of feels like a health fair. We've been invited to table. I'm not available that day. If anyone is interested in helping out with Live Well by tabling, that's an opportunity. Moving along, I just want to share that I'll be going to the NACTO designing conferences in Washington, DC. That's going to directly affect a lot of my Travel Well work. And actually, I didn't put it on here, but Kristen, if you're available, do you want to mention the conference you're going to in DC?
Yeah, I can. Oh boy. I can hear myself. This is terrible. Well, that's fine. I'll tell you anyways. I'm going to the National Anti-Hunger Policy Conference that is in Washington, D.C. So this is done annually, and it is put on by FRAC, which is the Food Research Action Center. FRAC is an institute that I get a lot of research and resources and data from when it comes to food access. And so this conference brings together folks from across the food access space, across the anti-hunger space, to come together and have conversations. So it's about school food, but it's also about food pantries and food distributions. It's about policy change. And what is exciting is because it's in DC, part of the conference, they hold a day for you to meet with your representatives if you would like to go. And they call it a lobby day, but since we've discussed this many times, I cannot lobby. I will not be lobbying, but we'll be using the opportunity to reach out to Pat Ryan's office to hopefully be able to schedule some time during the space that they leave in the agenda to have conversations. So very excited. I haven't been to this conference before, but I've heard it can be a good one to look at policy on the federal level, and it feels like this year in particular, either will be the best time to go to this conference or the absolute worst time to go to this conference. We'll see which one it is. So that will be May 4th through 6th.
Thank you so much. And then finally on this list, I just want to let you all know that I'll be tabling at the Kingston Farmers Market July 19th to just do general Live Well Kingston outreach. So, and if anyone would like to help, they are very welcome, but I've already signed up for it and I'm committed to it, so. Yeah.
I'm going to be there as well. I haven't really planned out why, but I signed up for a day on June 7th.
Great.
So there's also a day that I'll be there. TBD, it'll be about food, since that's generally the work that I do, maybe our food systems plan. But if anyone's interested in talking about food and nutrition or have other things to have at like a Live Well table, like we have a table on that day.
Awesome, that's great to know too. Okay. All right, so that's our communications. Anyone have any communications they'd like to share? Job openings, events coming up, connections to other committees, anything?
We're going to be at the farmer's market in June as well, maybe on the same day as Kristen to do diabetes screening.
Fantastic.
2 days, they give us 2 days in June, I don't know which one.
Okay, cool.
And we're going to be at the Earth Fair for the same reason. I wonder if we should go to the health and wellness event instead. We didn't hear about the health and wellness event.
The YMCA one?
Yeah.
Want me to send that email that I got to you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did health sort of related stuff at the Earth Fair before, and they were sort of more in a celebratory state of mind, like, no, we don't want to get our blood pressure checked, we're here to have fun.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll be more interested if they, maybe they'll be interested in having their blood glucose checked.
Yeah.
Which is not fun at the health and wellness event.
Okay, I'll send you that info. Yeah.
That's new.
Yeah, the residents.
Anything else? Any other communications? Otherwise, we'll move back up the agenda to the circle format. So I sent you all an email with lots of links to all of our documents. I just wanted to sort of start the conversation by talking about our intentions and sort of goals for this next conversation. So maybe first I'll just talk about the structure. It's called a circle format, and the idea is that we very structurally give everyone a certain amount of time to respond to certain prompts that I'll go over in a moment. And the idea is that it's a very intentional way to invite everyone to participate. If you don't have anything to say, you can always say pass for now. And I'll try to do at least 2 rounds, so you'll get a second chance to talk. You don't have to I'll calculate how much time you get, and I'll actually set a timer. And you don't have to use up the whole time if you don't want. You can always say, okay, I'm done for now. That's sort of the structure, and we'll set the list, and we'll go around the same way again the second time as well. And the reason that I'm hoping to do it in the structures, again, so that everyone sort of has a chance to talk, I find that it really creates a reflective space. It really allows there to be sort of, for whatever, I feel like people start to be more thoughtful in their words in this format. I feel like people start to slow down with the way that they respond. So I think it really creates a nice environment for some real reflection. What else should I say about that? So then let me try to center it on what we're gonna try to talk about today, and that is, we've been going through this strategic reflection. We've looked at the Live Well Kingston's timeline, previous achievements, the SWOT, flow chart. And then we had a conversation last month about the different focus teams and the commission. What their most recent activities, what's been successful for them, some of the outstanding questions, some of the needs that are still needed, better word. And so now today, Katrina and I brainstormed this a little bit. We thought that we would try to ask the commissioners to respond to some of the following prompts. And those are, what are your interests or goals for 2025? So we've been sort of priming everyone to think about how they'd like to interact in this work. So here are some suggestions. You could help with reporting on health assessments. We're talking about reviewing and planning the communications, being a liaison to one of the focus teams, refining the outreach and welcoming process is needed, reviewing our action plans and creating smart E goals, so adding that I and E to them, or something else. Those are just some options about what you could reflect on or commit to. Then you could also talk about what are your outstanding questions about Live Well Kingston, or about a focus team, or about any of the work that we've done thus far. So any questions about the format, or what the prompts are, or anything coming up for anybody? Okay,
Makes sense.
all right.
Thanks for working.
If you're all game, so if there's, I'm just gonna calculate, since there's less of us.
Can I say one, the only thing I feel a little sad about is that only half of us are here.
I know.
So then it's like, are we gonna do the same thing next time? Because the idea for this one was like, we were gonna meet today, kind of have a plan, and then maybe not meet next month, because we would all have these other things we were working on. But with half the commissioners not here, that's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So that's my only hesitation going into this, is like.
Yeah.
And are we meeting next month, because we have to then recap and then do the same thing.
Smart. We could do a lighter version today and do it again. We could postpone it and hope that more people come next time. We could go through it and then ask everyone to watch the video and respond via email with their own thoughts. We could, any other thoughts and options of what we could do? Or how you'd like to move forward?
Yeah, I was thinking like we could ask people to do it by email.
Send it to the group.
Yeah, just send it to the group by email. That wouldn't be too much of a lift, and we could get everyone's participation so that we don't have to like redo it, which would be the
That's a great idea. Yeah.
worst case scenario.
Okay.
That's good to me too.
So if you guys then, why don't we'll do a little bit of we'll do our version of the conversation today. And then we'll ask them to participate via email. So if there is 6 of us. Kristen, do you want to participate? Do you want just to observe? What would you like?
Well, I guess if you were participating, like I didn't know if it was like just the commissioners or commission and staff, because I feel like my work is also deeply impacted by the commission.
Yeah, okay, great. I think you and I should also speak.
I think it's very valuable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try to do a 15-minute round first. So there's 6 of us, so we've got about a 2.5-minute response time for each person. I know that that sounds really strict, but we'll start with that. Katrina, you offered to go first, so I'm gonna take us around in an order that then we'll go Kyle, me, I'm gonna do the room first, Anthony, and Anita, and then I'll do Kristen. If that all sounds good to you. So then Kristen, do you have access to a computer or are you do you mind trying to record any outstanding questions that come up?
Yeah, of course. I actually have two computers because I have my personal computer too.
Okay.
All right, I'll put down questions and stuff.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, then I'm gonna get us going. Katrina, if you are ready, do you need a reminder on any of the prompts?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, like Emily said, we kind of sat down and talked about how this meeting would go, and I think my main interest for 2025 is really to like focus on structure and how to move us through this year of planning so that 2026 feels like an action year. And you know, again, a lot of I kind of have more questions than I have answers at this moment, like what is the commission's connection to the focus teams? What's our connection to y'all's work? How do we support the focus team? How do we support y'all's work? How are we connecting with the community? And then I think as the chair, I'm also like, how many commissioners do we need? Is that part of my responsibility to bring more people into this meeting, but also for what intention? Do we hold off for the year because we're in this like kind of sticky situation, or do we just bring people in to kind of help answer some of these unknowns? Another piece that I have questions about that I brought up before is connection to the Common Council, advocacy work and policy. Should we be moving in that direction? Like, okay, so we heard from the focus teams, we need A, B, and C this year. And just, or do we go back to the way it was last year, which was really like an updating meeting? Like, I feel like I don't have a clear answer in this moment, but I do want to spend time strategically thinking about it and coming up with some ideas that other folks can weigh into instead of just being like, I don't know, we don't know, we none of us know. I'm kind of committing to being like, here are some of the things I would suggest, and do other people agree, disagree? Let's kind of move forward with that. Especially, just kind of around the structure of the commission itself. So I think I've tried to start doing that with having these regular meetings. I'm hoping that like after I leave as chair, there's maybe more of like a job description for what this position could be and what all the positions are. And then and the same thing with like, I think one of the prompts was like a welcoming process. Like maybe there's just something that if you sign up to be a commissioner, you kind of know what you're getting into. Or, be like, hey, it's totally fine if you have like a couple absences, but after that, it's really not working out. Or like, not that this is like, it kind of all goes back to like, what is the point? Like, why are we all here? We're all donating our time. We all have busy lives. We all have things that we're interested in. And obviously we all care. And so I think that that's that piece of like, yes, what is it that you care about? What is it that you're bringing, and how can we use your expertise to kind of move this commission into the next year, and to make sure that it's just functioning in a way that's not just symbolic.
Got 5 seconds left.
I'm a little dance.
Well done on the time. Kyle, I'll take notes for you while you respond.
Okay, thanks. So I think my interests are really kind of similar to Katrina's. I mean, trying to see how I can be useful in like helping the group to define and document like its vision, it's the roles and responsibilities of the commission, the role and the focus groups. Like, I'm also very interested in how we could, as a commission, play a more active role. And so that I like the idea of coming up with some tasks that we can each take on. So there's a bit of sweat equity that we can put in to support the Department of Health and Wellness. And I think specifically there, just figuring out what we each can do, what our roles are. I'm also really interested in seeing what's the how does this group how does this group pitch itself kind of for the future? Like, how do we sustain funding for this effort? Like, I do have concerns a little bit about like, how does this effort continue to be sustained financially? So I'm interested in like how we as a commission could help with that as well, to improve sustainability of the commission itself. So yeah, I think those are some of the interests I have is like documentation strategy, you know, roles and responsibilities of the different groups, documenting that, and then like kind of fundraising.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'll go next. I think I've shared many of my thoughts about this in the past, so I don't want to just reiterate them. I guess mostly, first I'll start with a thank you for taking the time to reflect on all of this. Second, I think it's really timely, and I do feel sort of like what keeps me awake at night is the justification for the work. What is the impact that we're doing? I want to keep coming back to that, and I really want to have a clear answer for that. Probably as sort of as an annual report or in early 2026, I would like to be able to have some clear communications about Well Kingston's impact. Earlier in these conversations, we were going to eliminate the focus teams. And now, in some ways, the focus teams are continuing, except for Heal Well. And actually, right now, it feels sort of sustainable. So I think part of my argument to you all was we don't have the capacity to do all of them. Right now, there sort of is, we've got a good system. It seems to be kind of going along. There's always room for improvement. But I'm feeling less urgency to reduce the number of focus teams. I still feel the same urgency to clarify our goals and impacts. So don't want to just keep things as they are, don't misunderstand me, but I am. I feel like the focus teams are the ones that are meeting regularly, sort of have some clear projects, and there seems to be some new energy coming into it. So I'm excited about that. I think that's what I'll share for now. So that then goes to you, Anthony. Do you feel ready? Do you need any reminders on prompts or anything?
No. So I guess what I would want to see in 2005 and going forward is I guess to I mm, I guess being more decisive on what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. It feels like the past few months has been a lot of asking ourselves the same questions, questions that none of us have answers to. So I definitely want to stick with things like I think outreach. I think it's. I feel that even though it's important to have goals and objectives that are measurable and that you can, provide evidence to and things like that. I think I kind of want to move away from that just because it feels like so much of the impact that the focus groups make is kind of, it's not that it's not tangible, but it's just not something that can be measured as easily.
Rita, that means you're up.
Last meeting, I had said that I wanted to report on the health assessment.
Mhm.
So, so I thought I was gonna report on it today, but it would take a lot more time. It's really long. I actually had time, so I read it today,
You read 400 pages today?
mostly. I mean, some of it is other counties, so I kind of skipped the other counties. And I didn't quite get to the very end. And I realized at the vet, well, I have unlocked. I had some time, and I sat outside in the sun. Yeah, it was actually really kind of pleasant. But at the end, they had a really good summary, and if I'd only known, maybe I just read the summary, but I think it's probably good to read. So I took notes, so, but I don't think really, the 2 minutes is really not time to report on it. So I guess, though, what I guess the thing that we can think about is there are certainly, some of the issues, all the issues are obviously really big. Some of the issues are being worked on already in various forms. Some of the issues have been worked on already, and they talk about at the end, because they compare it to, it's done every 3 years. So this is, there was the previous one, and some of the issues are being worked on and are improving. So it's funny, one of the issues is Ulster County is much, I looked at where Ulster County was worse than the other counties, right? So sort of the deficiencies. But anyway, so they really have lower diabetes screening, which is nice because we actually, though I have to say it's kind of coincidental, but we actually are doing a lot of diabetes screening this year. So, but anyway, so I guess what I was thinking is, I'm not sure the best way to move forward with the data, but maybe identifying 1 or 2 areas that already are part of HealWell's existing focus groups, and maybe there's work already being done, and try to identify the issues and figure out which ones will, can fit in with HealWell's existing goals, and try to work on those, or identify those as something that maybe we could address through HealWell's existing work. I don't know if it makes sense to work on a whole new.
Thank you for that. Any more thoughts for now? You got
Yeah,
it?
because I don't think I really should report on the actual content. Yeah, I don't think there's enough time. But there's so much information in this report. It's pretty remarkable how much work they put into, how much data is there. And as we said last time, maybe it's not really being utilized.
And that's your time. So that was perfect. Good.
Maybe we can send her the summary doc though. There's a summary.
Yeah, it's a really nice summary. Yeah. I mean, this is right online, so yes, I can turn it down.
Or even just link or something. Read the last
Yeah,
pages.
yeah. I have the pages of the summary.
It looks like Kristen's gonna have a helper. Kristen, would you like to have your 3 minutes now, or are you busy?
Oh yeah, he's going to music class. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Ben.
Yes, let me pull up the questions to remind myself. Okay. Is it my time now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. I think my interests and goals for 2025, I feel like I've talked about this a lot, so it kind of feels like I've already taken up so much space talking about these things, but the same idea of, I see such value in, I feel like community body within local government. I think even more, I've just become more and more interested in civic engagement and civic opportunities and power. And so I think to really actualize and realize like the full value and potential and impact of Live Well Kingston as a commission. And I think going back to the idea of like uniquely, what is the commission and how is it both unique and there are barriers to us being embedded within the government. There's certainly some barriers and some challenges that we can't do the same as if this was a council that was housed in a nonprofit, but we also have opportunities with the commission being housed in the government that we might not have in the nonprofit. So I feel like for 2025, like it would be really great to be able to really clearly define that and articulate it. And I think by doing that, it will also show people the value for their time, hopefully in coming and filling our empty slots as commissioners and joining you wonderful people who are around the table right now. I see also, we've talked a lot about how to get, if this is a commission for the city of Kingston, how to get people who reflect all corners of our community into the commission as commissioners. And we've discussed, ad nauseum the challenges to that. But just because something is hard doesn't mean it's not worth it. And just because something is hard doesn't mean we don't have smart people in the room to figure out solutions to that. I was just at the UID and Health Committee earlier today, which I think it would be a really great partner in a lot of our work going forward, hopefully. And they were talking a lot about how to get out into the community. And it just seemed like such a natural partnership and pairing to think about what that looks like specifically on like a microcosm of like our immigrant community, but then also for the Kingston community as a whole, which feels more like the commission's role versus the UID and Health Committee. Also, Susanna and Katrina Williams were in that meeting. So I was like, shout out to the commissioners in this room. And so, yeah, so I think a lot of that also, Emily referenced the training that we were in last week. I think we're always discussing how we can move along the spectrum of power. And so how can we always be moving from a place where power is within the hands that we have, and what can we do to transition to power into the hands of the community? And what just like brainstorming what that could look like and how we could facilitate that, whether that is through certain ways to recruit folks to be commissioners, or it's finding different on-ramps and different opportunities for people to be engaged with our work without necessarily being commissioners. We talked about peer educators today at the Health Committee, and I talked about how in Rochester they have they intentionally recruit trusted leaders from the 4 quadrants of Rochester to make sure that they're recruiting folks who are in their community spaces and all the geographic regions. So it made me think about our commission. And yeah, and I guess also like this idea of like, how does it connect to the focus team? Oh, am I done? Because I could talk for like a long time. So
Save some for the next round.
okay. You could just like wave at me.
Yeah, I was thinking like you finish the thought. Yeah.
I got too many thoughts, too many.
All right, so that was a full complete round. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking notes, Kyle. Let's go again. And you can keep responding in the same way. Those were about what you'd like to see done in 2025, what you'd like to commit to. You can also ask a clarifying question of someone else. If you're like, what was that part you're trying to get at? And then another new prompt is to do the things that you're interested in committing to or interested in digging in deeper in 2025. What are the barriers or what are the needs that you have for that work? So what support would you need? That can leave that really wide open. That could be many different things. So I'm gonna bring us around again. That means Katrina, you're up again. Anybody have any questions before I start us up again? Any questions that's sort of come up about the format but otherwise clarifying questions on like our work, I think could be in your response. But are we ready for another round? Okay. I'm gonna take that as a yes. I'm gonna keep us going. That's good. Katrina, you're up.
I feel like we need like a document of just clarifying questions, because I think Anthony, you said that, it's like, are we just saying the same thing every time? Or it's like, could something just like live somewhere and then go back to it, like, look, it's the same. Because yeah, that's my main question is like, how do we move forward? Like, I feel like whenever you're in this process of figuring out like any sort of like mission statements or vision or goals, like it feels sticky. It's like not always fun. So it's like, how do we move through this quickly while, yeah, like how do we get people to show up for it? how do we move forward? How do we also like recruit new members while we're figuring it out? Because it's like, I feel like if you walked into this meeting today as a new person, you'd be like, I do not want to be here. And I would like to do something different. Because I think, yeah, last year, like coming into like a presentation that you guys like spent time on was really lovely. It's like, whoo, I'm just like popping into a class and I'm like learning all the stuff. And so that was great for us, but yeah, that question that keeps coming back up is like, how do we give back and like, how do we articulate that? I think you said that really well, Kyle, just like, make, I think I wrote down the sweat equity, and when you were talking about that, I was kind of like, oh, are we like the board? Like, are we like, the board helps with fundraising, the board helps with keeping the organization on track. And so that maybe the focus teams are kind of like that fun space, and then the board is more like, okay, how do we keep things in line? That's really a lot of my questions, is just what does this year look like? How do we get to that goal of our November meeting of making those decisions and be like, okay, we are going to keep the focus teams, and we are, or every commissioner has a chair they work with, or whatever we kind of decide. How do we get there if we don't have the full commitment of the commission to do the work or to get there too? And I think that was what I said before, was like, ooh, like the fact that only half of us are here today kind of felt like, oh, it's a hard start to this work. But I'm happy with the suggestion of people being able to email. It's you know, it's sometimes hard to see an email and like really dive into it and feel like invigorated. So it's like, yeah, how also do we feel rewarded for this work and motivated to continue to do it, even if it's like a little tougher? Maybe cupcakes. Food is rewarded. Okay. Well, that's to you.
Yeah, so I think my question since I've started coming to these meetings is really like, what is needed for this effort to be, I think, well, like on the right footing? Is it, is it better goals and objectives? Is it better measurement? Is it better, like more leadership within the focus groups? Like, do you need, bodies to help support the continuous running and management of the focus groups? Do we need some help around fundraising? Do we need to kind of figure out our positioning vis-a-vis other commissions or other efforts? Like, what are like kind of those major questions or areas of support that are needed to make this effort stronger by the end of the year? So I think like if we can align on that and create a little bit of a work plan with some clear like who's doing what and roles, I think the commission could be potentially more effective, more useful, hopefully to everyone. So yeah, those are just some of my questions. It's like, it kind of really like, what does this effort need to be successful? And then, yeah, I think like moving forward, so we can kind of figure that out and go forward together.
Thank you. So a few different things are coming up for me to try to respond to a little bit. So Katrina, I think you were asking a really great question. Is it what if we don't have full commitment? What do we do? And I guess my thought is we do a lot less. I think, and that's maybe what has been happening for Live Well, is that, it's been staff time. It's been me and Marcia and Kristen. And so we're only able to do so much. And so that to me is sort of the answer, is like, if more commissioners want to sign up for more things will get done and more clarity will happen. The less the other folks do, the less that'll happen. I just can't, so that's fine. I guess then maybe my question back to the commission will be, so then with our limited capacity, what should we prioritize? So, and Kyle, I love your questions about what is needed. And I was sort of loving, like, Katrina, your idea of the list of outstanding questions. should we try, all the asking questions we've collected thus far in today, should I put those in a document and next month we try to all answer them together? Maybe that's another good step. Part of my initial reaction to what is your question, Kyle, your question of what is needed, my answer is like, yes, all of it. You know, so then I think what I need the commission's help with is what is the priority? So do we, you know, it's probably better goals and measurement, but if it's tell me that or tell me it's fundraising, you know what I mean? I need some support from the commission to direct on what our priorities are. Yeah. I think that's my thoughts for now. Anthony, do you feel ready?
Sure. I guess the first part of what you said makes a lot of sense to me. That you know, without it seems like without you know, the focus teams or the commission, the city's entire health and wellness thing would just be the to you, and you know. So it seems like there's definitely. It seems to me like that there's it's definitely a use, like a purpose, that having a commission or if, I mean, just having extra bodies to work on, you know, such a big important thing, such as like the health and wellness of the city. And I think I'd like to see I guess I don't know, for us to decide what that means instead of asking each other. That was
All right, thank you.
I guess my question would be, you know, since it sounds like we're in the process of trying to figure out what the structure, you know, direction and focus of the commission is gonna be, in general, really not sure we know yet. Like with looking at this data, be maybe not that, like, maybe not that helpful at this point, or it pulls into a different direction. That might feel like we're in a lot of different directions already. So I'm just wondering, you know, I just want to make sure that feels useful to the rest of the commission to spend time looking at this document. The document is also Ulster County, it's not Kingston, but Kingston is obviously the largest population center. So, I mean, statistically speaking, it's going to be mostly Kingston, but it is deals, you know, some of the responses are dealing with people who live in rural areas and have different challenges. So I guess, you know, this is just my personal interest. So I don't want to sort of like think that it's going to be useful for the whole commission to look at all that. The data, but I mean, it is, I think it would be important not to ignore it because it is really like the only data we have about the health of that area. So it seems useful, but those are some of my thoughts. On questions, I guess.
All righty, Kristen, are you ready?
Yeah.
You've got all those other points.
So I think I was thinking about a few things and listening to everybody, and you know, one, this idea of like getting like full commitment from people to come in, like I think that in my experience, where I see it's helpful to start to like build that commitment is in like two ways. One is really like reflecting back impact. And so showing people the value for their work. It's why, I'm trying really hard. Any survey that I do, I share back the results with folks. I try to both share results and do a little bit of like synthesis and analysis of it, so that we're sharing out so people can see the impact and the value of their time, but also providing different types of opportunities. Like maybe people aren't going to always come to these meetings, and we have to have these meetings, but creating opportunities for people to be engaged with the work in the way that they have the capacity to. And that comes from us, though. Like maybe me and Emily, maybe the commission, like it comes from us to create that for other people, given everyone's like limitations on time, I think. So I was just thinking about that. I also feel like we have some really great resources from the training that we went to. And I keep thinking about this like template that they shared that was about community engagement. And maybe I'm just starting to use some of this as the community engagement planning canvas. I put it in the chat, but really like going through these and identifying the role of the commission, identifying who should be engaged. So who is engaged, and then I clearly identifying who's not engaged and saying, okay, well then who are the people that we need to be trying to engage? Why are you engaged? How are you engaging? So they've got these really great tools. So I'll put them in the document as well so people can reference them as one of the ones that we use. And so starting to use that, and maybe that will also, if we're using it internally, it can be something that if everyone feels like they're not the appropriate person to give the answer, then this year should be asking other members of the community and doing that outreach and asking, what do you want to see from this? We also have a resolution that created the commission. So there is guidance in there. And I feel like we haven't referenced, like Emily has shared it and we like referenced it a little bit, but there's like responsibilities for the commission. And so like maybe like bringing that in and engaging that. And I don't know how much longer I have, but because I talk a lot. But the last thing is that it feels like in so many of these spaces, we're not talking about what's happening on the federal level. And I know that these spaces are nonpartisan, apolitical, but the impacts that are happening in our community in terms of health and wellness, that is nonpartisan. That's happening across the board. And I think that we need to be anticipating that a higher need is going to be happening across the spectrum of the work that Live Well Kingston does. And so keeping that in mind, we can't just ignore it. Like it is happening. And so how can we see the increase in food insecurity? How can we see the increase in people, I know people like aren't always going to their doctors right now because they're not leaving their house, or maybe they're going to be losing health insurance soon because they're covered by Medicaid and Medicaid is being cut. SNAP's going to be cut. I think those are things are like it feels irresponsible to not bring those into the room when we're considering the work that we're doing and can be done in a nonpartisan, apolitical way.
That's good. All right. So that was 2 full rounds. Where would you guys like to go next? Do you want to do another round? Do you feel like we've made some decisions? Do we feel like
No more rounds is my.
No rounds, okay.
Can we respond to each other right now? Maybe just conversation?
they all?
I think there's something that both you and Kristen said about just like bringing this work into like reality and like whether that's like a study that happened or our policy shifts. And I think that's great that you did, you can't believe you read this whole thing, but like I would love to hear about it.
Very interesting.
And it's commission to commission. Again, like part of my concern at the beginning of the year is like, I just don't want to take up all of your staff time in like educating us. Like we can like bring also things to the table. Like why don't, and so you did this work, maybe our next meeting, I would propose like however much time you want to go through it. Maybe we can read something in the interim and like, or there's, or we look at some of Kristen's policy bites or just like kind of rooting ourselves in this in 2025 and like what if we were starting this commission over again, what would we focus on? It's just a question. It's like because we're inheriting and not all of us have been here since the beginning. Is it still relevant? I think that's like what keeps coming up is like, are we still on the right track? Are these groups relevant? It's like what are the pressing issues for Kingston residents? Are we addressing them? How are the ways that we can help? And how do we support health and wellness department, the focus teams, but part of that is just knowing what is going on. So I really love that idea of having someone who's, no offense to Kristen Nobley, but having a commissioner or like, we all have very different professional lives, being able to bring that to the table too, so.
One thing that I think would be helpful from my perspective as someone who's really new on this committee and honestly still very, what it is that we do for the commission is that, I wonder if it makes sense if as a commission, we adopt some overall goals and like broad goals, like, food insecurity, which is what Kristen spends a lot of time working on, transportation, which I know you've been working on, and I know you work on, you do Grow Well and you do the other, but you have one more. You work a lot with schools, I thought. But anyway, but that also goes with food insecurity and food access. So I wonder if we can, I think a lot of the focus groups and a lot of the commissions are already working on many of the health disparities that this document identifies. So I wonder if we can, as a group, come up with a number of goals and just figure out, as a commission, what already is being done to meet those goals, where the shortfalls are. And because some of it is, I feel like there's a lot that's being done and it's being done in different parts of city and county government, and as well as private organizations. And we may not really all be communicating well enough. We could consolidate and coordinate that information and look at that point where the gaps are. And, maybe there's no one really working on, I'm going to pick something really specific that really makes me very upset as a provider is like smoking, because we have high smoking rates in Ulster County. And I feel like we're working, so that's just like a little example, something that just caught my eye, because I know where there is work already being done on food insecurity, there's work being done on some of the transportation issues, but there may be sort of more disparities that could use more support. And so that way we can focus our work on where we can actually make a difference instead of continuing work that's already maybe being done pretty successfully by some other parts of city government or county government. So that was just.
It seems like you're also hinting at maybe like a loose inventory of what is happening.
Yeah.
Which always is changing, which is hard to keep updated, but.
Right. Because my sense is there is a lot happening, but there's maybe not a lot happening across the board. There's maybe a lot happening in certain of these areas that they talk about, but maybe not everywhere. So, it's always nice if you could focus your efforts on a place that really would benefit from more work, of course, to be done. So.
Yeah, I see great value in sort of doing a review of that document. I see no reason not to. I think you have great points. I love the idea of sort of adopting some overall goals. I think I've tried to do that in the past, and I think I need help with that. So, I think our action plans have been an attempt at that. So maybe it's to have this conversation, but, maybe it's that framing of if we were to be doing, starting today, what will we focus on a little bit? And then we can decide what work is currently happening at Live Well and see how it aligns or doesn't align. And maybe that's part of that the decision. Then in December, we decide, okay, Play Well doesn't really fit into this. Let's transition that in a different way. Just for example, I'm not putting Play Well under the microscope.
So we did just last week, like just to agree, like you were saying to, she was just some more senior issues, is that the Ulster County Department of Aging does a lot of stuff. And are we coordinating, like, we should keep what they're doing, are we coordinating what they're doing on their issues that are affecting seniors that no one is really, addressing that maybe we could be addressing, but if we don't really know.
What
the
Office
gaps
for the Aging is doing.
Well, I think we sort of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right, but, or you may not be doing, I know just a little bit, but I'm just saying that it's like, I guess it's just as an example, like, because Nettie was saying that they're working on just one little piece and maybe they're doing other things, but if we don't know exactly what's being done, then we don't really know what needs still to be done.
I think that you just to explore that a little bit further, because I think it's a really good kind of case example. So Office for the Aging comes to all of the age well focused teams. So they're in the room and often it's kind of dominated by them giving updates on what's happening in their program. And I mean, just no disrespect by that, they are valuable partners of ours. And so Nettie and others identified that this year's focus was going to be on supporting one specific program. And so we are sort of aware of what's happening at Office for the Aging, and they found a gap and are trying to fill that. So I guess it's unclear to me why a City of Kingston subcommittee is doing that and not a group that Office for the Aging is organizing. That's my outstanding question for Age Well. Sometimes an slightly outside agency can be more effective in asking questions and pointing out where things are missing. So that's a valid role. It just, to me, it's more about going back to those bigger overall overarching goals. Is getting more drivers from neighbor to neighbor rooted in the needs of our community. We hear that we need more drivers, but then how do I show the impact of that, or how do we keep bringing it back to the elevator's statement of what Live Well Kingston does? So right now, my elevator statement is like, we have 6 focus teams, and like, I drafted each focus team, and it's really complicated. How do we bring it back that it's one mission that everyone sort of understands what it is for Live Well? So I love reflecting on the assessment data. I think that should definitely be the foundation of our decision making, 100%. I think we should have a full conversation if we decided to do more smoking response. That would be like a new focus team. But let's discuss it.
Well, that's just my personal.
Yeah.
Interest, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's just, when you read a big document, you pay attention to what interests you. So
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Is anybody talking in there? Sorry, I couldn't hear. No. Okay, great. I was just gonna echo, just to bring it back to our current situation, I think really emphasizing, I know it's really difficult to measure the impact of our work, and we talk about that a lot in public health because public health is very output based, and that's what people seem to understand rather than outcomes and long-term impact. And so it's hard to measure relationship building and all these like softer, messier things that go behind the scenes. But I think that we're going to be facing at least 4 years of significantly reduced funding, and the way that we get funding is showing impact. So to me, it kind of, and I hear this from like a couple of different folks, like, assessment and measurement and impact is really important as we're building systems around this commission to be able to, I think Kyle mentioned earlier, the sustainability of it too, just worrying about that because that would create a vacuum if suddenly all of this work didn't exist and we built something around it in Kingston. And so, yes, it's like difficult and it doesn't feel good maybe sometimes to put numbers to things, but so for like the food system plan, there are all these grants that I was keeping an eye on, these federal grants. And so when we finally got the plan done this year, I don't know if those are going to be offered again, so I think it's going to be a lot more competitive also in terms of what dollars are available to kind of do this work. And particularly when we're talking about having such limited capacity, that's always dollars to hire somebody, really. We work within a capitalistic economy. I don't know. So this is not a new thing to say, but I think as we're all swirling around with these different ideas, really wanting to like double click. I feel like that was like corporate jargon. This idea of being able to show impact, though, I do think that's really important. It's going to be important for that funding piece going forward.
Yeah, I was just trying to like take notes on trying to bucket some themes that I'm hearing. So like one is kind of what I'm calling like sense making, which is like bringing in context, like the federal policy environment, how that's going to impact the effort, the health data, the partner mapping as well, like kind of to validate and sanity check like whether the work that we're doing is actually sustainable, aligned with the needs, not redundant like that. So that's like the first bucket. Then I was thinking about the fundraising piece, which seems really important given what Kristen's mentioning about federal funding and needing to probably diversify funders. I think anyone that is thinking about or want, we cannot rely on federal funding for the next 4 years. I would say any social impact effort needs to be looking outside of federal funding right now. And then I think like measurement and storytelling is the third piece. So like being able to measure the impact that we're having, it can be qualitative and quantitative, being able to tell a story, which will then of course be useful for fundraising. The fourth piece is around governance. So like defining roles and responsibilities of different of like the commission, the commissioners, the focus groups, which again will be useful in any kind of I think to your point around having like a sense of the whole, so that then that will be useful when we're trying to tell our story to potential funders and potential new commissioners or focus group members. And then the last one is community engagement. So is like what I think Kristen you've been mentioning a few times and others have as well. How is this effort how is this effort really truly connecting with the community and incorporating community? So like I think we probably at this room don't reflect the entire Kingston community. There's a lot of people that are not here. Do the focus groups reflect the community? Are the people in the community, are they aware of what Live Well Kingston is doing? Do they see value in what we're doing? I think it's a really important question we probably should be asking. So, or I'm sure it has been asked maybe through surveys and things. But those are like 4 or 5 things I'm seeing. So like in terms of goals, maybe we could kind of come back to these 5 or other 5 and try to think of like who could support work on each of these maybe within the commission, and then maybe that could make our role more concrete. Because I think we have all the ideas in the room for sure. They're really great ideas. To your point, I think the hard part is prioritizing within these maybe or among these.
Kyle, do you want to help me put what those 5 or 6 things that you buckets together in a document for the next month? And then we can sort of show that back to us. Maybe that's a sort of a next step. To me, that would be like action planning.
Yeah.
That was a good synthesis.
Yeah, that was really fabulous.
Maybe we could actually, so that becomes like the charter for this group, for the commission for the next year.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
I mean, it's easy to put on paper, hard to.
Well, I think we have that. I think we have like a mini presentation to kind of ground us, and hopefully everyone comes.
And I think so if we have a little bit of a structure to show next month, and Anita can tell us a little bit about what's happening in assessment, then that would be ideal to then see where are these connected. Maybe we can, having that information at the same meeting, I think will be valuable.
And maybe we can also reflect on, like, was it last meeting that we went through each group and kind of where each group is at too? Because some I feel like are more aligned and some are not. And just making sure that we always like center the focus teams to kind of like what is currently happening.
Yeah, and that's a question and I will admit that I like, the last 2 months, just been like pretty insane, so for any reasons. So I haven't, but I would love to be, one thing I will fully transparently feel like I don't have a good sense of like where the focus groups are, and then that's part of my own fault because I'm not engaged in any, but I just don't really know like what is the commitment level of the different focus groups? Are you seeing any gaps in commitment or in, I don't know, like fidelity to some type of plan? Like that would be helpful, just to like understand the health, maybe like a set health check of focus groups. And maybe that could also help us figure out like where we need to drive more attention to from within this group.
I think that's kind of what we tried to do last month.
Yeah.
Just like, here's the outstanding questions from each group.
Yeah,
And like,
that's true.
and like this is how people show up, and it's like, I think we established Eat Well has the most folks, but it really is like the ones that are most attended are the presentations. Again, it's that same format of just like coming and kind of being like, thanks for the information. See ya, like, and it's great, and it's like nice to see people on screen, and it's a lot of people who work in the food system space, and they're doing it during work hours, and it counts as work, and it's like where I lived for the last 10 years. So yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not you can't really put value, like that's a good or a bad thing, it just might not be like driving change, but like maybe that's not the intention of it, maybe there are these like other task forces, or this become, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just good to know, because if the commission is like, great, we've got these goals and these plans, and Eat Well's going to do all these things, just know they're not. And that's not like a judgment call on anybody. They're just not right now, currently. I say maybe I love thinking of phased plans, so maybe there's like a way to like build towards that. But I think it is good to get kind of a realistic understanding of how they all are currently working.
Right, and that's why it feels like the practical sense is like, you two are the ones who are getting like paid to do this work, and so yeah, if there are like specific asks of how the board or the volunteers could like help that work, that maybe it's outside of the focus teams, maybe it's literally just with, the commission's job is to support the work of the health and wellness department.
Yeah.
Like maybe we kind of like, we're just like, and there are focus teams as well. Like, or like, I don't know, it doesn't all have to fit really nicely in a box. If it doesn't, like, the focus teams want to exist in the way that they want to have like self-governance and do their thing, and it works, then fine. As long as like some of the goals rooted in real problems are being moved forward, and you have,
Right.
and the capacity issues are being addressed by people who want to help with those.
I'll call out that in terms of capacity, from the lovely themes that I really like, Kyle, that you highlighted for everybody. One of them, a lot of this work that we're talking about is really limited based upon capacity. And you said the word paid, we're paid staff. Katrina, is that fundraising? City of Kingston employees are not allowed to solicit donations. So we don't actually fundraise at the city. We can apply for grants. That is something that we can do, but we cannot, I know that philanthropy a lot is relationship based, and developing relationships and then eventually going to people and saying that you have a need, that is technically legally not something that we're allowed to do. So maybe the commission, like seeing these different themes and seeing both what Emily and I can do within our roles and identifying what we cannot. Maybe one of them is the assessment, like we are not medical doctors. And one of them is the fact that like we are not allowed to fundraise. We're also not allowed to lobby. So like I think there are like gaps in what our abilities are. And maybe that's a good way of looking at what the role of the commission can be too.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, so you're not able to, are you able to submit a grant to a foundation? You're just not able to do any of the relationship building. That seems.
I mean, yeah, do you want to clarify?
I was gonna say, we can build relationships. Like I know folks at the New York Health Foundation, I can't email them or call them and say, can you give me $50,000 to do a project? So I can't, I feel like that's like what it is that like we can do the relationship building, but they have to offer us the money.
Or someone
Yeah.
else on the outside
Yeah.
can do it, right?
Yeah, or another, like on Live Well, I think we say like, what's the language, Kristen, it's something to the effect of like, the city of Kingston is welcomes. What
Yeah,
is
I
it?
think it's not something like we're accepting of donations or
But we-
sponsorships. We call it sponsorships.
Can I use the tangible example of what happened with the food systems plan?
Sure.
Just how
Yeah.
Kingston works is like we were sitting in this room, we had all these people apply to this plan, it was a $50,000 grant. People were coming in with amazing proposals that needed more money than that. Y'all couldn't ask Novo, but I could. And we turned around and asked Novo and doubled the grant the next day. I don't know, it's just like that's how that works in this town, but it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know, so as commissioners, can we do that, or are we not, like, what is if y'all can as employees, can we as commissioners so get funding outside of grants or through?
I was gonna say,
informal
yeah, but
channels?
let me clarify that, let me find out.
Yeah, I don't actually know the answer to that.
So I actually clarifying, I mean, maybe I should know, but so Live Well Kingston, the initiative itself is essentially is a government program. It's considered to be a government program. There is no like nonprofit status, or is there nonprofit status?
Yeah, there's no we're a municipality, whatever
You're a
that is.
municipal- Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So-
So that would actually change probably who you could even submit like responses for RFPs or RFIs. Like you would have to go in as a municipality, which would, might change the types of funders you look for. Yeah.
But the city, so the city has a really successful grants department. We often apply for grants. We've been really successful at that. The city also often partners with nonprofits. And then we'll do a grant application. So that there are different examples of that has happened. So that's one way that the city has done grants that are not available to us, but we partner with others.
Went to their grants meetings.
Say that again?
I went to they did like a
Oh, did you? Yeah.
presentation about the grant making process within the city of Kingston.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is the grant department like highly focused on federal funding sources?
I don't know if I can answer how focused they are, but for example, I just heard there's a transportation project on Flatbush and Foxhall, and part of that was federal funding. And we just learned that 1 million of it was allocated, that we just lost through the congressional budget thing that just happened, where they, where they, my language isn't great, but basically, I think the understanding is that, so Congress adopted a mini budget to keep the government open, right? And so in that, they, the $1 million that was allocated to Flatbush and Foxhall got lost. And so now we're being invited to apply it again through our representatives. So the grants department is absolutely focused on federal funding because we are actively losing it. So there's projects that we were not in contract with the federal government for that we are not hearing back from our representatives at the federal government about.
Is there like a citywide task force related to the potential ramifications of federal policy change right now?
Not that I've heard of.
No.
That's a really interesting idea.
Because it seems like pretty cross-cutting across everything.
So unpredictable.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think anything that's federally funded right now that you don't have in your bank accounts, I would be looking for other sources. Or be worried.
So it's just about time for our meeting. Thank you all for participating in this conversation. I think it was quite fruitful. I know it's a little awkward, but we got some really great points out of it. I'm looking forward to sort of reviewing everything we've talked about, maybe working on presenting next month about the health assessment, talking about maybe some action plan for what we'd like to accomplish in 2025. And then I think the next step in that will be some prioritization, that might be a month after. So it doesn't feel like Katrina and I talked about offering, do we want to meet every other month? It doesn't feel like that to me today. It feels like we still have quite a bit to discuss and figure out. So I'm gonna propose that we'll meet again next month.
And then invite the folks who weren't here to
Yeah.
contribute.
Yep.
Email, just reply all.
Yep. I will absolutely do that. Any last thoughts that need to be said tonight?
What
Otherwise,
is this grow?
oh, thank you.
So pretty.
Oh. Anthony is familiar with it. These are the list of Grow Well in-person meetings for this year. We're meeting twice a month at various gardens. We've sort of mapped it out for Grow Well this year, but that's a black and white. It's also, everyone wants to put some up for me. What's really nice about this year is we've met in person in the past, but not, this feels the most structured, like we've committed to a location and a date. Basically, we've scheduled the whole year out for Grow Well, so that's sort of a new thing this year. Please spread the word. Oh, Chris, yes, your hands up.
Can I give actually a few program updates? Yeah. I was gonna share. Oh, I'm the host now. Oh, okay, that's fun.
I just closed my computer, I didn't realize I might have just messed up the live streaming. Go ahead though, please.
Oh. I just did a work back timeline. I'm gonna tell you about the food system plan again. It's currently with a graphic designer. So we're doing a design pass. And I'm really pushing to do a public meeting in May. Isn't this crazy? I was like, we're gonna have a public meeting in February. I'm not guaranteeing a public meeting ever anymore for this plan. Um, but it is with the graphic designer, so fingers crossed that the public meeting and the public engagement period will start in May, partially because I needed to start when my current grants like fiscal budget is. So we'll see. I think the Live Well Kingston Commission, I do want to flag, I really would like, we have a round where I'm going to be sharing it with internal stakeholders, as we're calling them, folks that are called out in the plan. And the commission is called out in the plan. And I want to make sure that we share it with you so that you see it before it goes out to the public and we're saying the commission is going to be working on certain things. I wish that the goals and the strategies would have been an iterative process when they developed it, but the consultants just did not do that as a part of it. So I hope that when you see this, it resonates with you. But that will be, I'll give all of our internal stakeholders, when I share this plan, a 2-week turnaround time to review and provide any comments or feedback. To be honest, we don't really have the capacity to do anything super major at this point, so hopefully it doesn't get to that, but we'll see. That will likely come in email. So that's why I'm saying it now, because I don't know when it's going to come out, if there will be time in a meeting to review it, because there'll be a 2-week turnaround to let us know. It's very exciting, hopefully. And then, wait, are there any questions about that before I give you the other one? No. And then I was really excited. We don't really have a lot planned for this yet, but we did, I think, Kyle mentioned storytelling as one of the themes, and the CHISC grant, it ends May 31st, and we always have money to spend down because that's how I feel like restrictive grants are sometimes. And we're able, for that program, to hire a communications team, like essentially a documentarian team, to come in and do interviews of 12 different individuals who have worked with us across various strategies of that grant, and also just 12 individuals who are like deeply connected into the community and they give back. And they're just, I think, such beautiful examples of the strength and the resiliency and just everything that makes Kingston amazing. I see all this, and shout out, Anthony's one of them. So we're so excited that Anthony agreed to be a part of this. So we're going to have that, and I think it's going to be really fun. They're going to do photography. So hopefully it's these really beautiful photos. I've seen their photos. They're like legit photographers. And then they'll be doing the storytelling across a multi-platform campaign that they're developing for us. And part of that will be like the public it'll be media and it'll also be our legislators. So talking about this idea of like we can't lobby, but we can also educate. And I think it's important to continue to share and uplift these local stories. So that might be something that's going to be coming out within the next couple of months because we have this short timeline, and maybe it'll be of inspiration for work that the commission is doing, as well as we think about what storytelling looks like for us. Yay!
Thank you so much, Kristen. Lots of stuff going on as always. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna call a meeting to an end. Thank you, Kristen, for calling in, and